Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we've got some really big updates for the car market and really more so for the dealership world. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. So over the last few videos, I've talked about how the car market has taken a recent turn. We are now in what I would call an official downturn, at least over the short term so far. We'll see if this is more of a long-term thing. But because we are now in a downturn, I need to talk about what this means for the car industry, and more specifically, what this means for dealers, because I do think that there are some car dealers that are extremely vulnerable in the current car market situation. Like, we might see more dealers go out of business, just like what we saw last year with a lot of used car lots. So let's talk about what's happening. Let's go over the facts, and then we'll talk about the dealers that are vulnerable and what this means for the market moving forward. So the first fact, wholesale car values are on the decline, right? And this is partially because dealers are just offloading a bunch of used car inventory that they currently have, because they figure that with values not going up anytime soon, they might as well offload cars that they're already losing money on so they don't lose even more money on them. And then on top of that, the retail side of things with used cars has definitely softened. There are fewer customers. And a big part of the reason why there are fewer customers is, first off, there's not a whole lot of used car inventory. So a lot of people are just waiting. They're just waiting for the right inventory to come along. And then the other part is just interest rates and approval. Interest rates are really high, so this dampens affordability. And then on top of that, banks are becoming extremely strict with their approvals. And so a lot of people are more than willing to pay the payment that they're being offered with today's interest rates, but the bank isn't willing to give them that payment because they just are being very strict about who they loan cars out to. And I think a big part of that is the increase in car repossessions. That'll be another video. Now, that's the used car market, right? It's softening. That's the first fact. Now, with the new car market, it is also softening, but it looks a little bit different. Whereas we're seeing fewer used cars sell, we're still seeing strong sales with new cars, but the amount of cars being produced is outpacing the amount of cars being purchased. And this is just a rough number, but it looks like this year we're probably going to see about 15-ish million new cars sold. But it looks like we're going to see about 17 plus million new cars produced, maybe even more than that. And so there is a pretty big gap between the supply and the demand. And so this has obviously caused a lot of new cars to just decline massively in terms of price compared to their MSRP prices. We're seeing a lot of manufacturer, rate buy downs. We're seeing manufacturer rebates. We're seeing dealers discount cars quite substantially. So the new car market is completely flip-flopped from what it was like a couple of years ago. And yeah, it's definitely in a state where it's softening. And the biggest reason why it's softening is not because there are fewer sales. It's mostly because there's so much inventory available today. And so you combine those two things and you can see, car sales on the used car front and the new car front, not in the best situation. Now, the next part of dealerships that's really important is these service departments. They're actually doing extremely well. They're very profitable right now. There is no shortage of cars to be worked on. And on top of that, the rate premiums that dealers are able to charge in service departments is very strong. So the profitability there is really good. And so you put this all together and you have a situation where sales are slowing down, but the service department is not slowing down. And so with those two things together, you can see that there are some dealers that are going to be very vulnerable. So first off, let's put a split between new car dealerships and used car lots. Most people do not service their cars with a used car lot that they buy their car from, right? You go to that dealership, you buy your car from that dealership, and then you're off on your way. So the majority of the money that used car lots make is off of the sale of cars. Now, obviously, some used car lots will have service departments where they will actually fix up, some of the cars that they will fix up the cars that they put up for sale, and maybe fix up some of the cars for their customers. But that is not nearly as common as what you'll see with new car dealerships, where they have a lot of things happening in the service department because they are servicing the new cars that they are selling. Because if you have a new car and you want a warranty claim to be claimed, then you have to take it to a franchised new car dealership. And so because of this split, used car lots are the most vulnerable in this market. And again, the used car market is not in a great place because values are going down, demand is going down at the same time. And so you could see that profitability for used car lots is also going to decline. And so if there's, used car lots, which there surely are, that are in a bad financial position right now, things are about to get a lot worse, so they could go out of business. Now, new car dealerships are not going to be immune to what is happening, even though they have service departments which are going to help out with keeping them afloat during this tough time, while sales are starting to slump, where there's not as much profit to be made on new cars and where there's just not as many used cars to be sold. You have to understand that not all new car dealerships are equal in terms of their service department revenues. There are quite a few new car lots out there that get a majority of their revenue from car sales because of the market they're in, the size of it and everything. They just, don't service all that many vehicles. And so because most of the revenue comes from sales, they could be in a similar situation to some of these used car lots where sales slump enough, they're not making any money, and well, they can't keep the lights on. Now, again, I think that's going to be a lot more rare because they do still have a little bit of a buffer, but yeah, there are some dealers that are definitely going to struggle more so than others. And so what this means for the overall car market moving forward is I think that this is going to push a lot of people actually out of the car market because people are going to see the price declines that are happening and they're going to just kind of do the whole sit back and wait and see what happens. Because if you're actively researching a car right now, chances are you're going to see that the car, is at a certain price and then all of a sudden the price decreases. Or maybe you're looking at new cars and you notice that, wow, the MSRP is this and this is the sales price. Maybe it's going to get even better. And so just because of that mentality, I think that could potentially lead to lower prices in the future, right? It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy if enough people just sit back. And again, there's lots of reasons for people to sit back right now. With the declines in used car wholesale values, that means that people's trade-in values aren't going to be as strong. So that's a reason for someone to wait. Like, hey, my trade-in's not as good as I thought it would be. I need to wait. Interest rates are still really high, and there's been some rumors that interest rates might go down in the future. And some people might be like, well, I might as well wait for the interest rate to be lower before I buy a car, because if I buy a car now, I'll buy it at a much higher interest rate, and I can just save myself money by waiting 6 to 12 months. Whether or not that'll actually happen doesn't matter if the person ends up waiting. And so again, I kind of talked about the housing market in another video. Not an expert on this, but with me looking at what's happening over there, it seems like you have a similar situation where there are people that would like to buy a house, but they're seeing all of the price declines happening in the housing market. So they're just waiting. They're just waiting for the person to take another $100,000, $200,000 off the price of the house. And so again, you can kind of bring that back over to the car market where, maybe a car is priced at a certain amount and then $1,000 off. And so the people are just sitting there on the sidelines waiting for the next 1,000, waiting for the next 1,000. And they're seeing, how low will it go? I guess we're playing a little bit of that. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about this situation that is currently unfolding within the car market. And let me know if you think that there are going to be a lot of car dealers, especially used car dealers, that are going to go out of business in the next few months, maybe next year roughly, because of all of this. I'll see you.